Welcome to Crime Files TikTok compilations, a vault of real horror, where murder isn't fiction and the footage doesn't lie. In this compilation, we bring you chilling clips and haunting case files that reveal the darkest parts of the human mind.
The head you see above me is a preserved actual head of Diogo Alves. This is the head of Portugal's first serial killer. He murdered 70 people in the 19th century. His head has been preserved for about 182 years now. And this head is still on display at University of Lisbon. His method of killing was pushing his victims off of an aqueduct. After he was captured and prosecuted, they decided they're going to slice his head off and preserve him. The reason for this, they wanted to study the mind of a serial killer. I'm just amazed at how well preserved this head is after almost 200 years. Because his head is still intact in this jar, they never really studied his brain or why he did the things he did. This head in the jar thing also became a widely known internet prank a couple of years ago. People would put pictures of themselves kind of like twirled up in a jar, and it would look like a head in a jar in a fridge. This story of Diogo Alves inspired all of that. I think the creepiest thing about this though is his eyes are still open as if he's looking right at us. Let me know you guys.
This is one of the most terrifying true crime cases I've ever heard of. The scariest part of it all is this could be anyone that you know. Your dad, your husband, your friend, a relative, anybody. Before we proceed, please know that there is some disturbing content within this video. This all took place in the Channel Island of Jersey in 1957. A 29-year-old nurse was waiting for a bus station minding her own business when a man comes up behind her with this mask and attacks her. She was dragged into a field and SA'd. She was severely injured and was left with incredible amounts of wounds that needed incredible amounts of stitches. The following year, a 20-year-old woman was also assaulted and attacked and brutally raped. This soon became a pattern, and all of the victims claimed that this man would always smell musty and would always have a face covering or some type of mask. In 1960, a small 12-year-old boy was asleep peacefully in his bed when he was awoken by this man who climbed through his bedroom window. The boy had a rope placed around his neck and was pulled outside and assaulted. As several more cases went on, this guy's name was called the Beast of Jersey. The photo behind me is a mannequin as to what he would appear to be wearing most of the time he would be doing these attacks. And I'm sorry, this is terrifying. It's giving me Leatherface vibes all the way. And I really can't believe that I don't hear more about this true crime case. The man's name was Edward John Lewis Paisnell. He was a 46-year-old man. He was actually married with a daughter and 2 stepchildren. His wife Joan actually had a foster home, and that is how she met him. And the kids actually knew him as Uncle Ted. He actually dressed up as Santa Claus every year and would give them sweets and treats and gifts, which is so fucking scary, guys, okay? In November of 1971, it took only 38 minutes for a guilty verdict to be reached on his trial. And he was also taken away to await his sentencing. He stood in the same court 2 weeks later and was sent to prison for 30 years. He was actually released from prison in 1991 for being a model prisoner. He ended up returning to Jersey very briefly, where the islanders remember his reign of terror, but he then died of a heart attack a couple years later. This is one of the scariest true crime cases I've ever heard of, and wow, those masks and outfits he used, just insane. There's a lot more to this story.
The girl in that video, 21-year-old Erica Lawson, allegedly sold her own daughter to 6 pedophiles so that they could abuse her. And after this assault was finished, the 17-month-old baby Elena died. Now, this case is absolutely horrific, and it tells the story of someone whose image on social media is completely opposite who they are in real life. So on Erica Lawson's TikTok page, which is still up, she's posted a ton of videos featuring her and her daughter dancing around, seemingly enjoying life. But behind closed doors, Erica was a closeted drug addict. And since details are pretty sparse in this case, and a lot of this is still alleged, this is what we know. At one point in 2023, Erica allegedly sold her daughter to at least 6 men. And when 17-month-old Elena's dead body was discovered, she had been brutalized, beaten, and some people even say she was beaten with a baseball bat. Now, like I said, details in this case are pretty sparse, but from what I could find on news sources, There were 6 DNA samples that were sent off for further analysis. 6 more people, I'm assuming men, that will be charged with this crime. And it's been recently announced that prosecutors are going to be seeking the death penalty against Erica, meaning that if convicted, she could be put to death for this horrific crime. It's absolutely mind-blowing and just disgusting and disturbing that a woman could ever even think about doing this. I mean, allegedly selling your own child to pedophiles to abuse, and then the child dies after this abuse. This is truly one of the most horrific, most disgusting, most disturbing stories I've ever covered. If you guys want to help, head to change.org and help sign this petition, Elena's Law, created by Haley and Haven Lawless. The petition has over 6,000 signatures, and the people who created it are basically asking the legislature in Kentucky to provide harsher sentences for child predators. Something that I 100% agree with, and yeah, I signed the petition. You definitely should too. And I really hope that this despicable woman is punished to the fullest extent of the law.
Has been in my freezer for 37 years. And I was always told it was like a wedding cake top.
Adam Smith had been living in this apartment, taking care of his mother who passed away from cancer just days ago. He showed us a photograph of a wrap box that was in his freezer. He said his mother kept it inside their freezer for decades and told him to stay away from it. He opened it after she passed away.
There was a pink blanket, baby blanket, and when I reached down and touched it, and I could feel a foot, and I could see the baby's head with hair was still attached to it.
He's distraught thinking about the possibility that that child may have been his sister and what his mother may have done. Preliminary testing led investigators to believe the child was wearing clothes made in the mid to late 1960s and that he was younger than 1 year old when he died. The baby was never legally named, police say.
So this guy blew up his entire family and he hasn't been seen in over 20 years. This is the story of Robert Fisher and how in 2001 he blew up his family home with his entire family in it. It was spring of 2001 when the Fisher family home burst into flames. Firefighters were immediately dispatched to the family home, but by the time they got there, the home was completely engulfed in flames. And by the time firefighters were able to gain access inside the home, it was way too late. Inside the family home, they found the bodies of Mary, the mom, and her 2 children, Brittany and Bobby, inside. Except there was something very odd about the state of their bodies. It became very obvious that they did not die from the fire. Shockingly, all 3 of them had had their throats cut open and Mary had also been shot. And expecting to find the father, Robert, somewhere inside the house, police were very puzzled as to why they could not find him. But as investigators continued to examine the family home, it became very obvious to them that this was not some sort of freak accident and that it was completely intentional. Not only did they discover that someone had severed a gas line inside the house, but they had also poured a flammable liquid around the entire home, including the bodies of Mary and her children. It was then believed that a candle was used to ignite the flames. And without any sign of Robert anywhere inside the house, he quickly became everyone's #1 suspect. About 10 days later, authorities found Mary's car abandoned in a nearby forest in Arizona. And with her car was also the family dog that was named Blue. Now at this point, authorities were 100% sure that Robert was responsible for this heinous crime. But with that, they still didn't understand why Robert would want to do this to his entire family. So with that, they started digging even deeper. Now the Fisher family was known to be quite religious, with Robert describing himself as being a God-fearing man. And around 1983, him and Mary had gotten married, and shortly after that, they both moved to Scottsdale, Arizona. And it was there where Robert began his career as a respiratory therapist, and the couple ended up having 2 children, Brittany and Bobby. But throughout the years, Robert displayed some very strange behavior, which some people described as being erratic, with others saying that he had a very dark side to him. According to people that knew him, in 1989, he randomly decided to shoot a stray dog. And when he was questioned about this, he said that the dog had attacked him, but it was later discovered that he had started the fight between the stray dog and his family pet. He also participated in hunting, but people that went with him said that he was quite reckless with his weapon. While other people noticed that Mary and Robert did not have a happy marriage at all. In fact, it was quite the opposite. Neighbors and friends constantly said that Robert would berate his wife in front of people, and that in 1989 she ended up discovering that he had had an affair. Now, she was obviously very upset about this and she ended up kicking him out of the house. But Robert was so distraught about this apparently that he threatened to take his own life. And when he returned to the family home, he swore to Mary and their family that he would be a godly father and husband. Now, at this point, some people did say that they saw somewhat of a change in Robert's behavior, almost like he was actually trying to be a better person. But on April 9th of 2001, neighbors reported hearing Mary and Robert have a very big and loud argument. Now, this argument was apparently heard between the hours of 9:30 and 10:15 p.m. At 10:43 p.m., Robert was then caught on CCTV footage withdrawing money from an ATM near their home. And then at 8:30 a.m. the next morning is when the family home exploded. And since that night before the explosion, he has not been seen and no one has any clue as to where he could be. And for about 20 years, he was on the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list. And over the years, they've released many different photos of what he could potentially look like. And although authorities say that they get weekly, if not daily tips about his whereabouts, they still don't know where he is. Some people believe he could have likely taken his life inside that forest where Mary's car was found. But authorities think that the dog would have likely stayed with him if that were the case, which leads them to believe that he probably dumped the car there and took another one to run away with. Others believe that he could potentially be living somewhere secluded using his training that he learned when he was in the Navy, while others believe that he could possibly be living under a new identity somewhere in Canada. But even though we don't know where he is, authorities do believe they know why he did this. And the consensus seems to be that because he was a religious man, he seemed to be quite afraid of getting a divorce. And although it makes absolutely no sense to him, somehow taking the life of his entire family was a better solution than getting a divorce from his wife.
You are on death row.
Yes.
Talking for the first time publicly about your crimes.
That's right.
We're here today, sir, to try and understand the mindset and motivations behind your actions in these cases. You're 78 years old now, right?
Yes.
In poor health, you say?
Yes, very poor health. That's one reason I'm doing this, because I'm going to die soon. I have a congestive heart failure.
Tell me in your own words, why are you breaking your silence?
Well, you hit it right on the head. And I also, an answer is, I don't know. All I can say is, it's time. After 17 years, after ignoring innumerable requests from every kind of person in the world, it's time. That's the way I feel. It's time, after 17 years, to break my silence.
In our correspondence, you said, I think I'm prepared to give you an interview that's a lollapalooza. It'll knock your socks off.
Yes.
I will answer any question
Yes.
about any subject truthfully and completely.
Yes.
Can I count on you for that?
You sure can.
You said, be prepared to meet a whole different breed of cat. What breed exactly?
Well, I'm just like no one else, really, you know.
Serial killer?
They're a dime a dozen.
Psychopath?
No.
Sociopath?
I have part of that in me.
These crimes are real, and the truth deserves to be heard. Subscribe for more chilling stories. Like if this left you speechless, share to keep these cases alive, and comment your thoughts below. Stay sharp and stay safe.